any? All right. So yesterday we still talking about Mindspore. I was asking if everything is still okay with Mindspore so far. And are you guys able to see my screen, and can you guys hear me? Because I'm not getting any feedback.
We can hear you now, but the screen is black. Oh, okay. Now it's fine. Now we can see something.
Okay, thank you. All right, so yesterday as well, we were talking about different components of Mindspore, how we actually using Mindspore. We spoke different ways of processing the data, the type of syntax that you use. So for example, we have Mindspore.dataset, which will import the data. And then we also mention how you will really need to set the environment before you start. So the context of the environment, if you're going to use graph mode or another type, and what device are you going to use? Are you going to use the Ascent, the CPU, or the GPU? So we mentioned that, okay? So so today we're going to carry on with that, where we left off yesterday. Okay, so we also mentioned how you build neural networks with Mindspore features. Okay, and guys, do you still remember how we use the Mind IR? So the Mind IR, remember we spoke about it, I think on Tuesday, where we mentioned that Mind IR was a part of Mindspore that is in charge of getting us to the right format of the model. So basically, we get the model in the right format. So it's basically about creating the right format that is needed. So basically, MindRR is, we can consider MindRR to be a compiler of your model. So this is an example of how code can be normal Python code can be like this, and then using MindRR, we can make this code into a proper structure for Mindspore. So now, when it comes to training, right? We need to understand that we have different type of training. So basically, when we talk about heterogeneous parallel training, what we're referring to is the performance. So it's basically the performance of this training. So it's like we are optimizing the performance of this training in Mindspore. So basically, the performance optimization strategy in Mindspore is called heterogeneous parallel training. All right. So which means that we're going to split our neural network computation graph into different parts. Okay, so we basically have okay, so what we basically have, we have this neural network that we have. So this is our neural network. So the neural network computation graph will be segmented into different graphs. So we have these graphs that we can consider to be subgraphs. So we can use this one, maybe the neural network on this side, this part of the neural network is going to use, is going to be executed on an ascent as the add way. And then this other graph, the process will be executed on the CPU. So basically what you're doing is that you're splitting the neural network into different subgraphs. And each subgraph will be executed on a different type of hardware, which can be on the CPU, GPU, or the Ascent AI processors. All right, so that's what we call an heterogeneous parallel training. So this is how we're training our model, right? So why do we do that? Sometimes it's going to help us to reduce the memory that we are using. Right? And remember what I told you last time, that even on your computer, each application is using a certain percentage of the CPU. So now to try and because the process of training a model is a process that involves a lot of computation operations. So to try and solve this issue, we can use this method. So basically here, we're going to take the neural network and divide it into multiple graphs, and each graph will use its own hardware. So in this case, in this example here, we are using an Ascent and the CPU, and both of them are working together. So basically, as we are training the neural network, some of the part of the network are using a different hardware, and the other part is using another hardware, right? So basically, this can help us basically optimize how we're going to use our resources, right? It's going to help us reduce the memory and reduce the memory bottleneck. So that means that how we're using our memory in our, let's say the system can only take up to a certain memory at a time, but we can divide it into different hardwares, right? And so because we can do that, that will help us accelerate our training time. Okay, so basically what we're doing is like we're letting multiple devices use the same operation, but they're using it in parallel. So each part of the network is being used on a different device or a different hardware. So this will help us accelerate the training, right? So so now that's how we can solve this issue of having a memory problem or resources problem. Okay, and then we have Manspo development component. So these are I think there's one thing we forgot, the key features of Manspo. Let me see. Did we talk about that? So everything here has been covered. Okay, so now remember what we say. What we said last time is that Mindspo is known for as a all scenario framework, which means that our model can be the model that is trained by Mindful can be executed in a cloud service through Mindful serving. Remember, we said we can execute it in the cloud or on different servers or devices. Okay, so basically now, when we want to execute it through or on the cloud, we use the part of Mindful that we call the Mindful serving. When we want to execute it on the server and devices, we use Mindful Lite. Remember last time I told you we could deploy it on devices. So by using Mindful Lite, we can do that. Okay, so because Mindful Lite will also support offline model optimization by using the Convert tool to build lightweight inference framework and achieve high performance model execution. So basically, when you want to do it straight on the cloud, so you can use Mindful serving for online inference. So this will basically be, these hardwares will be accessed directly from the cloud. Okay. Okay. And then when you want to deploy it offline, so basically use it on a device, you don't need to connect to the cloud or anything like that. When you're dealing with things like Internet of Things, CPU, and all these things offline, you're going to use the Mindful Lite. So that's how it's going to work. So basically, we will use the Mindful serving. Remember, so Mindful serving is for cloud deployment, and Mindful Lite is for device and server deployment. All right, simple as that. So basically, Mindful serving is cloud deployment. That's going to help you to have a real-time inference. So let's say you are working in a system where information about students are being processed, right? So in the beginning of the class, for those who joined early, you will see there was a video playing. I'm not sure if you guys could see the video. So that video that was playing was a video of how AI is being used in China, where students go to school, they will just weigh something on the forehead, and it's actually measure how focused the students are. And those data are being sent to the parent. So the teacher will see the data about the student, the parent will see the data about the student, and they will all know how's the student focused. So easily the parent can know that on a certain date, the student wasn't focused, right? The child wasn't focused. So they will know what happened at home. Did the child sleep enough? Did the child, or there was an issue at home, and all those things. So now when you look at that, in a situation where we have to deal with real-time inference, that means the information needs to be sent in real time. So in real time, all the information needs to be sent. So sometimes it's going to be very difficult to have servers that are on a certain location and deal with that. So sometimes we will need to have it on the cloud and subscribe to a service which has better hardware to deal with our data. I will give you an example. An example is you will go to an important service such as the Home Affairs. You get to the Home Affairs, and then next thing they tell you the system is offline. How many times have you gone to an FNB bank or ABSA bank? They tell you that the system is offline. Has anyone been at? Remember, I'm not talking about Capitec. I'm talking about FNB, ABSA, Standard Bank. Has anyone been at a bank and then they tell them that the system is offline? Anyone?
Recently that really happens.
Where about?
Come again?
I'm saying where about?
No, I'm just saying, Guti, like in the previous years, like 2010, going back, yeah, that would happen sometimes. But now, at the moment, their services are always on point.
Yes. Why? Because the data and the information are not kept on a local location, or any cheap services or cheap material. They're working better with cloud services for security purpose and for better data management. So now, if you have to deal with real-time inference like that, so basically, remember here we're talking about serving your AI from the cloud. So basically, the cloud will have all the servers and the GPUs of that. So on your level, if you want to deploy it on devices, you will need to purchase the devices. But if you cannot afford expensive devices, what will happen is that when you start using your AI, no matter how advanced your algorithm was, it's not going to perform well. Where you have your system that responds to a certain request of information, it responds with a delay because of the overload. The system is overloaded. So now when you look at issues like that now, you will need to either purchase expensive materials, like you have expensive hardware, or you will need to subscribe to a cloud service where your AI is going to work. So an example I can give you is a company such as Netflix. There's never been a day where people say there is so many people using Netflix. That's why Netflix is not working, or Netflix is buffering. Why? Because they are using expensive materials that can support that amount of people at the same time. Now, if you have an AI that you've created, but now you cannot afford expensive hardware, it's going to be a problem, because if you have many users, you start making money now, but now your system is always offline. So that's what happening sometimes with, especially with government services. There's always data being served from a certain data center locally, or some materials that are not really supporting the amount of people using the system and all those things. That's why we always have these issues with the system is offline and all these issues, you understand? So now when you look at the big banks today, they've invested so much money into the hardware, or invested into connecting to cloud services that can provide those hardware. So now when you're building your AI, you're training your AI, building it with Mindspo, you can either deploy online or offline in terms of your inference, depending on your need. So if you're using Mindspo to do that, you will use the Mindspo serving. That's for cloud deployment. But if you want to do it on edge deployment, which means your servers and device deployment, you will use Mindspo Lite. Okay, so Mindspo Lite, remember, it's just a lightweight inference engine, which is optimized for running Mindspo models on devices. Okay, like phones, IoT devices, Internet of Things devices, your edge servers, right? So you need to know that the Mindspo Lite as well, is going to cover CPUs, all the ascents and all those things. So now in this case now, it means you will have to purchase all these devices. But if you're on the cloud, it means you are either renting them from a different company, right? So that's the advantage there, right? So we need to understand that if we, depending on where we want to deploy our model, we need to know where we will, what service we will use. So basically, you will create your model, you train your model, right, in Mindspo on your development machine or clouds, depending on how you train it. And then from there, now when you're done, when the file is done, right, after you've trained your model, when you have the file now of your model done, so you will now export that trained model, that file, you're going to export it. Remember, you first need to convert it into the right format. what will be the format? Let's say your AI, let me see which name I can use in the class. Let's see. Okay, let's say Akona, right? Let's say your AI name is Akona. I don't know what that AI does, but so that means that you will need, after you're done, you will need to convert this AI in the right format, which should be, if the name was Akona, does anybody know if in what format this has to be? Anybody knows? Anybody remember? We spoke about it. Akona dot what? What module do we use to export our trained model? In what format do we have it? Remember, we spoke about it yesterday when I mentioned, when I even asked what was the data type of an Excel document. In this case, what are we going to have if our AI name is Akona? So what is it going to be? Akona dot what? Okay, so we're going to have, remember what we say, we need to convert it into the right format. So which format is that? We use mind IR. So it needs to be Akona dot mind mind IR. Okay, sorry for my handwriting. So it's going to be akona.mindIR. So this is the format that we're going to serve to the deployment environment. All right. So after we've converted into akona.mindIR, now we're going to take that for cloud serving. If we want to serve it, to deploy it on the cloud, we're going to deploy by using mind service. If we want to put it on a device or edge, which means on servers and all that, we're going to use Mindspore. Okay, so we basically, because Mindspore comes with a Mindspore converter, which will help us generate a lightweight model. Okay, so now we can take that lightweight model and deploy it onto the device. Okay. So that's how that's what will happen when it comes to the process of deployment. So guys, remember that when you deploying, this will be the process. So you will need to know where you're going to deploy it first. If you're going to deploy it on the cloud, first of all, you need to train your model. After you've trained your model, you save it in the right format. That means whatever name dot mind IR. After you've done that, now you want to see if you're going to deploy it on the cloud. You will use Mindspore serving. If you're going to deploy it on the device, you will use Mindspore Lite. All right. So that's about the deployment. Okay. So as we've mentioned, Mindspore serving is for online deployment, and then Mindspore Lite is for offline deployment. Okay, so you need to understand that Mindspore serving will help us with real time, because the advantage of that is that you have good material, so it's going to help you with real time prediction for your AI. It's going to be faster. Okay, so that's the most advisable way of doing it. So it's better to just use Mindspore serving. Okay, so this is very important. So many developers use Mindspore serving because they want to deploy it on the cloud, and the cloud is the best way of doing it. Okay, so you need to know that there are 3 ways available to access the Mindspore service, right? So the first way will be to call the gRPC API, right? The second one is to call the RESTful API. Okay. So basically, now what does it mean when we say to call gRPC API? So the gRPC is basically the RPC stands for remote procedure call, right? So it's a remote procedure call. So this is kind of a framework which supports communication between client and servers. So we're dealing with the client. So in this case, we have the client, you who's with your system looking for to access the MindSpo serving services. So client, and then we use this connection of gRPC or RESTful API to get access to MindSpo serving. Okay, so using the gRPC would be better if you if how can I say it? If you don't really need to really access it through a certain website, a certain link, because when you need to access it through, for example, a certain website, which is starting with the standard method of HTTP. When you look at your website, you see an HTTP, and if it's secure, you have a HTTPS, right? Okay, so you have your HTTP there, HTTPS. So when you want to access it through a certain link, like a certain website, it's gonna be better to use the RESTful API. But if you want to access it directly, then you can use your gRPC. Okay, so and another way is to use the servable of MindSpo serving, right? So which will support a single model serving, right? So this work especially when you have only one trained MindSpo model for inference. But if you have many models that you want to deploy there, for example, remember when we spoke about machine learning, we spoke about a method called ensemble learning. Guys, do you remember the method that we call ensemble learning? Does anyone remember? When we talk about a method called ensemble learning. Does anyone remember again? What is ensemble learning? Anyone? Anyone remember?
Isn't it whereby we combine weak models to create a powerful one?
Yes, yes. So it's basically instead of you training one big model, you create multiple models that will work together as one model. So that's how you're training them, right? So now when we want to deploy something like that, something that is, so basically you have multiple models that are working together, right? So in that case now, you will need to use this method, the servable of MindSpo, which will support this option. Okay. So this is how everything is going to work. And remember now, when you want to deploy them using a certain like HTTPS or HTTP, you need to use the RESTful API. Anyway, what does the HTTPS on your website stand for? Like, okay, first of all, what is www? The three W's you have before your website. What is that? What does that stand for?
World Wide Web.
Yes, yes, World Wide Web. What about the HTTPS?
Hypertext Transfer Protocol Secure.
Okay, what is that? What does it actually do?
is it not used to transfer data across the internet?
Yes, yes, yes. Okay. Yes, that's what it means. So whenever there's an S, it means the data will be secure when being transferred, and when there's no S, it means the data are not secure. Usually, when you just open a website, you haven't put anything for the security, or it's gonna be a HTTP. And for some browsers, it's gonna already tell the person that this this website is not secure. You understand? So um, that means your information that the person use on that website can be seen by anyone, right? So those are the difference. So remember that those are uh, okay, different way of of deploying these models, right? Okay, so we spoke already about Mindful Light. So Mindful Light, you will deal with Mindful Light if you are um, dealing with devices you want to deploy on your device, on your phone, your any type of device, your camera, in your own home. You want to create a certain, let's say, you want to create a certain AI for your fridge. Your fridge is locked. Your fridge only open when it detects the face of someone who stay in the house. That would be a very good idea. So that all the visitors, when they come, the fridge is locked. The fridge cannot open. So you can always create, all these small services. Remember yesterday I mentioned how there is many open sources. There's many websites where you get models, pre-trained models about certain things, and all you can do is just take whatever has been trained there because you understand what everything means. So you can take it and customize it as you want and create your own project. Create any project in your own home or anything like that. And yeah, all right. So any questions on these guys? Any question? Any question, guys? Any question? Okay. All right. So just to summarize that, remember Mindspore Lite is for deploying on devices, and then you have Mindspore Serving to deploy on the cloud. And if you're doing that with Mindspore Serving, there's three ways to access that. That means you've already you have your Mindspore Serving, right? Which is the module that you have. And to access that, there's three ways of accessing that. The first one is to call a gRPC API. The second one is to call a REST API or the servable of Mindspore. Okay, so you need to understand that. How will the whole workflow work? When you prepare your model, you created your model, everything is fine. You need to export your trained model as .mindir. That's the type of file that you need to export. And then uh, deploy it. If you want to deploy it on the cloud, you deploy it using the Mindspore serving. All right, so basically you're going to launch on your Mindspore platform, you're going to launch Mindspore serving, and then you're going to use for client interaction, you're going to use to call gRPC or REST API. Okay, so yeah, that's how simple it is. Okay, so all right, guys, I guess that will be all um, for today, and And next week, we're going to continue with Mindspo. So when we're done with the whole Mindspo understanding, then we're going to create something. So basically, you need to understand when you're building something for your competition and everything, that's how easy it's going to be, because if you have an understanding of what is Mindspo, you will know exactly what you're looking for. So basically, when you're about to deploy, you know you're looking for Minds for Light and Minds for Serving. When you want to convert in the right format, you know you're looking for Minds IR. So basically an understanding of what are these modules doing is very important, because that's what you're going to use. Okay, so that's what you're going to use. So next week we're gonna start with Mind Insight. So Mind Insight is just another module just to debug and optimize your model. Okay, so it's basically how you see how your data are being optimized. So you can see, basically have some information about your data. So it's basically kind of this visualization, okay, of your Mindspo framework, right? So this will help you train, debug, analyze, or optimize deep learning models, right? So that's very important. So you can basically see how it's performing. Maybe you were trained for the first time, you see, okay, how the performance of your model, and you train again. So basically it gives you a certain visual dashboard. So it's basically the Mind Insight. It's kind of a visual dashboard that you have on your Mindspo in order for you to actually see how your model is performing, right? So it will help you basically monitor your training progress in real time, to visualize all the losses. Okay, what's the loss of your training? The accuracy, how accurate is your model, right? And all those metrics that you want to really see in order for you to analyze what's happening with your model structure and the performance of your model, in order for you to be able to detect any issue with your training. Okay, for example, vanishing gradient. Remember, we spoke about a vanishing gradient problem. So Mind Insight will help you visualize that. Okay, so yeah, so that's it about today, guys. I think you can just turn on your camera so we can take the attendance, and I will see you on Tuesday. Is there any question? Is there any question? Any question, guys?